All right, everybody. I am the Amazombie, and here we are with your FC2 Newscast Weekly Edit. We are on Weekly Edit number 18 this week. So I believe this is number 10 or 11 that we've done live on video, and I'm still getting used to it. And still, my stream is messing up, so we're not doing it live streaming like we attempted to once, and I'm still working on that. But anyway, we'll jump right into what's going on today. We actually have a guest with us today. We have Mary Ratcliffe, correct?
Yes.
All right, make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. It may look like one thing, and you never know. So,
yeah, well, there's no C sound in it, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just sort of Ratliff.
Ratliff, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Mary Ratliff from GoodGameMovie.com, her newest project. And what is your company's name again?
It's 9 Hour Films.
9 Hour Films, okay, just showing that overlay there. And, let's just get right into it. In case you don't know Mary, let's let Mary talk about it. So, who are you? Tell us about yourself and why you're here.
All right. I am a film director, independent filmmaker, and I'm working on a feature-length documentary about the Evil Geniuses StarCraft 2 team. So, kind of one of many StarCraft 2 documentaries, but we're working on this. We've been working on it. It's been a long road, about a year since we started pre-production, but we started filming in earnest in June. So we've been following the team and seeing what they're up to and all that fun stuff.
So tell us a little bit about the project. Is called Good Game, and you can find it over at goodgamemovie.com. Where did the conception of the idea come from, and how did you go about starting the pre-production?
Well, it really came from going to MLGDC last year, which was last October, so it was almost exactly a year ago now. And I had been, I've been a gamer my whole life, and I've been following StarCraft as a competitive scene off and on. I wasn't really hardcore into it until that point. But I went to the live event, and it was just so much fun, and there was so much energy. And I actually, saw Idra. I didn't actually go up and talk to him or anything, but, seeing one of my favorite players in real life playing was just so much fun for me that I started realizing that, this must be what sports fans feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of came from there. I think it was probably, about 24 hours later that I just sort of said, you know what, there's a story here. And since I'm a filmmaker and that's what I do, my first thought was there's also a film here. So I started working on that. I did a lot of research for about a month and a half to see if it was really a viable idea or if it was just, kind of a pipe dream. And then I emailed Scott Smith, or Scoots, from EG. And to give people an idea of how long ago it's been that we've been working on this, originally I emailed him to see about going to document their house in Korea. When they were planning on doing that. So that's sort of how long we've been doing this. And of course, everything's changed since then, but that's sort of the nature of what we do. That's what documentary filmmaking is all about. So, but yeah, so we honed in on EG pretty quickly.
Okay, just a little, why did you pick EG, and were they totally keen to the idea right off the bat?
Yeah, we picked EG, part of it is they were just the first people I looked at because they were my favorite team and they had my favorite players. So it was something where, it's sort of the same thing of why StarCraft 2. I've been asked that before as well. And why not, Counter-Strike or, one of the other esports that maybe has more history. And the thing is, I wanted it to be something that I already knew about and that I was already passionate about, because those are the two things as a director that you really need to have to make a good film. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, they're my favorite players and my favorite team, so they were the first place I looked. And they were completely supportive from day one. They've been really fantastic. They've been really working with us about getting interviews while we're at events and everything like that. And so they've been so great to work with that I've never doubted that decision. And, on top of that, the reasons that they're my favorite players are the same reasons that they are good for documentary filmmaking, in that they have long histories as esports, athletes or competitors, whatever word you want to use. And And because they have these long histories, it's not like, you're going to go and start interviewing this guy, and then 2 weeks later he's going to quit.
Yeah.
So, we knew that wasn't going to happen. They're all really well-spoken. They have, good stories to tell. They have a good variety of different personalities and looks. And, they're just a really good team overall for all of the sort of story reasons that we would be going for.
So, just offhand, were you a StarCraft 2, or are you a StarCraft 2 player at all?
I do play. I love playing. I actually trend more towards the campaigns with Blizzard games. I love Blizzard. They are absolutely my favorite game company and have been for a decade.
Were you a WoW player?
I was. I actually, my subscription only just lapsed last month. We had to go ahead and let it go because I wasn't having enough time to play, so it wasn't worth it. But until Cataclysm, I did have a max level Druid, Night Elf. I'm Alliance. But yeah, I loved WoW, actually. It was one that I remember when they first announced it, because my thing has always been, it doesn't matter what Blizzard puts out, I'm going to pre-order it and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to play it. And so,
what was your first Blizzard game?
Warcraft 2.
Okay.
It was back in high school playing Warcraft 2. I think my sister got a copy of it somewhere. I don't even remember how it made it into our house. But I ended up completely addicted to it. And then StarCraft came a few years later. I didn't start playing it right off the bat, so it was actually 2000 when I started playing, so a couple years after it came out. But yeah, from then on, it's been sort of, as soon as Blizzard puts out a game, I'll pre-order the collector's edition. I don't even look to see what's in it.
You have the special Thor?
I do.
I'm so jealous. I don't have one.
I had to get it, especially for the Jim Raynor dog tag.
Oh, okay.
The USB.
The USB
that
port, yeah.
That sold me so fast because I love Jim Raynor. He is one of the best fictional characters ever. And that's actually, like I said, why I tend to go towards the campaign is that Blizzard has amazing stories.
Sure.
And so,
I love the original campaign, the StarCraft 1 and Brood War.
Yeah.
I thought they were just fun to play, but just a great storyline as a whole, too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the kind of thing that, colleges actually teach StarCraft as a storytelling, example, or they have in the past I've read about. And so, if I ever got to teach a class on it, I totally would be go play StarCraft, come back, we'll talk about how great it is. So
let's go into a little bit. How about your history as a filmmaker? How did that all happen, and what kind of stuff have you done?
I've been making films since I started undergrad, which was way back in the day. I actually started in 1998, which dates me a little bit.
So you're probably about my age.
Yeah. It's funny because, every once in a while, Sir Scoots and DJ Wheat will talk about the Old Man's Club, and I'm like, if you call it an old folks club, I can join. So, but yeah, so I started back then. I decided in high school that I wanted to go into filmmaking. I wasn't one of those people Spielberg making the Super 8 movies in the backyard when they were 7 years old. I never did that. I wrote screenplays. They were horrible, but I did a lot of that. I did a lot of writing. But yeah, as soon as I started my college career, I went straight into filmmaking, never looked back. I never did the whole something to fall back on idea.
Where did you go to college?
I did my undergrad at a place called Hollins University, which is in Roanoke, Virginia. It's a really small women's college with a big focus in writing and storytelling. And then I actually just finished my MFA at American University here in D.C., which has a big documentary focus, although I studied narrative a little more while I was there. So.
All right. And so what was your first film? How did you actually make the jump to being a filmmaker?
I mean, on the one hand, it technically was a student film because I made it for a class assignment, but I made this short video with this ancient clunky VHS recorder and a linear editing system.
Oh, yeah.
But it was called Post Haste, and it was a video all about how much I hated the post office because, they were always closed whenever you needed to get something from the window, and, you only got junk mail, and the change machine never worked, and the stamp machine never worked. And so it was just, a fun, silly little, all these things going wrong in the post office kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the first thing I did that was sort of outside of, like, the confines of a class was I did a documentary about cosplayers, which is people who go to anime conventions dressed up as their favorite characters. So I did that. Technically, it was part of my senior thesis, which also I did 2 films for that, which was the cosplay documentary, and then also I did a fan film about StarCraft and Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been into that for a while.
And tell us a little bit about what other films have come out of your company.
So in the last year is really when I've been focusing on that, trying to do things to get them out to festivals and everything else, so I did a short film last year called Extraction, which is about 5 minutes long. It's a silent film, comedy, a lot of improv in it, these 2 amazing actresses. And basically the idea of it is it's just a silent film about these 2 girls that are trying to break into a house, and they're not very good at it. So that one's a lot of fun, and I'm sort of waiting for it to finish its festival submissions and get through all of that to decide whether or not we're going to put it online and where it's going to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did another short film last year called Catching Up, which was a dramatic short, more of a social justice, social issue film about prison literacy.
Okay, sure.
And so it's kind of based on true stories. My dad was a guard at the county jail when I was growing up, so I was used to visiting him at work and meeting inmates and stuff, which people think is kind of weird. So I sort of wrote a script about that, and we filmed it on location, actually, in my hometown in the jail where my dad worked, on 16 millimeter film rather than video. So that was an experience. So those are the big things I've been doing as a director. Of course, 9-hour films, I started putting that on my projects actually way back at that first post office video. So, we've had a few things under that banner, but these are the ones that I'm really excited about and really proud of right now. So,
okay. So let's go back to the documentary, to Good Game.
Mm-hmm.
With all the various documentary projects revolving around StarCraft 2 right now, currently, as you know, Justin Agnew with Star Nation and the Sons of Korhal and what was Life of Ire.
Yep.
How is your film and the scope of it different than the others?
Well, I mean, one thing that I keep pointing out to people is, I just finished, like I said, my MFA, and I was in an editing class where basically all we did was all 15 of us would get the exact same footage and edit something out of it, and it was always different, and it was always interesting. So, I feel like no matter what, we're all going to come out of this with something very different and interesting, just on our different points of view. But with mine, obviously I have the focus on evil geniuses. We're a little bit narrower than some of the others. So we're looking at them not just as a team and not just as competitors, but also as a business. And I think that's something that not a lot of people have looked at yet.
Which I find quite interesting right now, especially with the growth of esports as a business in America.
Mm-hmm.
And Evil Geniuses are right now at the forefront of that.
Right, and that was another reason to go with them, is that, I was looking towards, because when I first started to sort of pitch this idea to friends and family members to see what they thought, every time I said professional competitive video gaming, they always said, how do you get paid for that? And, the answer is sponsors and team salaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, if you look out at the general audience, that's what they want to know. And EG is a fantastic case study for how that works. So that is definitely something that we're sort of getting into and looking at a little bit. Not necessarily in great specifics like some people might want to know. But obviously they've had team transfers, and they've had the whole thing with Puma and signing him.
And then the Huck situation and
right, exactly. So they have these situations that we can look at and say, look, this is how that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been part of it.
Who from the Evil Geniuses organization? I mean, have you pretty much interviewed everybody so far, from E.G. Alex all the way down to, or?
I've interviewed all the players.
Uh-huh.
At this point, I've spent time with all the players. I've interviewed Lucas, who's Colby.
Okay, sure.
Who's sort of the player coordinator, I think might be his title.
It's kind of a rep, yeah.
Yeah, and I've talked to Anna a lot, actually. Anna Prosser, she's one of my favorite people. I obviously am very interested in women in gaming. So it's been great to talk to her. I've spent a lot of time talking to Sir Scoots. We haven't sat down and interviewed him on camera yet. Just because we're waiting till we have like an entire day to spend with him rather than doing it at a tournament. Because he and I are both talkers. So we know it's going to be a really long conversation, so we want to make sure we take our time and do it right. And at this point, I've met everybody, but that's everybody that I've actually had on camera so far.
Are you planning on getting, like, E.G. Alex?
We've talked to him about it a little bit. We don't know if it's going to work out or not.
Okay.
It's really sort of, it's the ball's in his court on that one. Like, we'd love to, but it's sort of a matter of timing and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay, so what about overall timelines? When exactly, you said you kind of, the idea formed out of MLG DC last year. When did the actual pre-production start, and then when are you looking to kind of wrap the whole thing up?
Well, I started doing a whole lot of stuff with sort of proposals and preliminary budgets and stuff almost immediately after that. So, December or January of this, past year. We went to PAX East in March, and we filmed some of that. That was about 2 hours of footage, so we don't really consider that like the kickoff of production, which was MLG Columbus was the first one we went to.
Okay, so you didn't go to Dallas?
No, we didn't, because I actually already had a previous commitment to work on another film.
Okay.
I'm also a script supervisor, and sometimes I work in like the art department.
Sure.
So I had already worked out I was going to be working on something that weekend. So unfortunately we didn't get to Dallas, which would have been a lot of fun. But yeah, we started out, we went to Columbus, and we've been going full tilt ever since. I think every month we've had at least 2 things that we've gone to and filmed. And then we're going through at least the end of the year. I've sort of declared that we're wrapping up at the end of this year. Obviously, if something really important is going on, we're not going to just like ditch it and be like, it's December 31st. I don't care who's winning GSL.
Is there just on that note? Is there like you just kind of stated that you decided wrapping up? Is that just kind of the timeline in general, or were you looking for the end of a certain event?
We're looking. Originally, it was that was towards the end of the MLG season,
sure.
So Providence and the Grand Championships there. And, we sort of started looking at this as a year in the life. And so, that ending in November, and GSL is sort of once a month, but it would, at least one of their seasons would be ending around then as well. And NESL Season 2 is also going to be ending right around early December. So it just sort of seemed like a time where things were coming to a close, and it would be a good natural ending point for us. And like I said, we're sort of thinking of this as a year in the life of a team and what happens over 2011.
Okay.
So,
what about, have you gone anywhere else, like pertaining to Korea or Europe, and do you plan to at all?
We haven't yet. We absolutely are going to go to Korea as soon as all that gets worked out. It's really just like logistics and funding at this point. But now that they've got Puma and Huck and Idra's going over to Korea, yep. I think, DeMuslim has announced recently that he is.
Yeah, I think I've read about that.
Yeah, so it's sort of, obviously if we're following EG's story, it's in Korea as well. So we're going to be getting over there. We just don't know when. Europe, I absolutely would love to go, but we would have to, really pull out all the stops with funding.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And it would have to be sort of a big event.
Like a DreamHack or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have to be something that EG is participating in, or at least some of its members. I mean, obviously, like, Idra and Huck usually end up at DreamHack, or they seem to have recently. So, like I said, we would be interested. I would absolutely love to go to Europe and cover it there as well. It's a complete dream, but if we had to pick between Korea and Europe, Korea made more sense. So,
on that note, this is a little bit. This just popped in my head talking about the various players. Is there, out of all the players, you said you've interviewed, you sat down with pretty much everyone on the team.
mm-hmm.
Who's the one who really stands out to you? Who do you like as a person more than, or just really captures your attention?
I don't know. That could get me in trouble. They actually all are really wonderful in different ways, and they all come across really well on camera. Like I said, in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I've been teasing our editor because she put several clips of Machine in our recent teaser, and joking around with him being her favorite. But they're all fantastic. Like, Machine is very interesting. DeMuslim is always. He's got a really fun demeanor, and of course there's the accent, it doesn't hurt. LZ Gamer's hilarious, and he makes me laugh so much. Like, it's actually kind of hard sometimes to find places where you can't hear me laughing.
Mm-hmm.
In Control's the same way. He always ends up making me laugh. They're all fantastic. Strife Crow, Axelav,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Idra is Idra. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him give a bad interview.
Yeah.
So,
No, he always has something to say, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So how about looking at release dates and release style? Like, are you looking for doing like a festival run and into like a theater, or straight to internet DVD?
Well, I mean, the dream is definitely a festival run. I don't think that it's, I try to look at it from a very realistic point of view, so that I can make sure that I'm not like going out there and saying, we're going to premiere at Sundance and then we're going to be on movie screens across the country, because independent documentary, and that's not really where it's going right now, and that's not really what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're going to submit to Sundance, because I feel like a rejection letter from Sundance is almost like your badge of saying I'm a filmmaker now.
Uh-huh.
But we are looking at a festival run, yes. Like, part of my dream for this is for a mainstream audience to see what these guys do, and to actually like fight that stereotype that professional gamers are just like teenagers who don't want to get a real job or whatever.
Sure.
Because obviously this is a real job to them, and they put a lot into it. And so, I want to get that out there and show that to people.
Were you... before we go on, so do you have any ideas to a release timeline?
I'm hoping since we're sort of wrapping up in December, depending on the things that are going on, we're really going to start post-production in earnest in January. So I'm hoping summer 2012 is going to be when we start submitting to festivals. And then, you get into a bit of nitty-gritty with filmmaking and how that works and premiere statuses and stuff that bores everybody. But, so the idea is that's when we're going to start trying to get eyes on it. And then after we sort of have gone through the festival run, there's going to be DVD online. Just, we haven't worked all those kinks out yet.
Sure. So were you as a fan of the competitive scene, were you into the Brood War scene at all?
I was into the Korean scene to a degree.
Mm-hmm. You were aware of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sort of, I think, a stereotypical story for girl gamers, in that my husband watched a lot of it.
Sure.
And so he was constantly watching whatever it was that Tasteless was doing. And so since he was watching it and our computers are next to each other, I was sort of getting it by osmosis at first, and then like turning around and watching, and then like sitting with him, and then it sort of graduated to the point where I was getting up at 4 a.m. without him to watch the GSL. So yeah, I was definitely aware of it. I was definitely like paying attention, especially, huge fan of Tasteless and anything that he was doing at the time.
Sure.
And he was kind of my gateway drug into the competitive scene, so.
Yeah, I'm getting my wife into it with Day 9, of course.
Yeah, Day 9 was definitely a big help. Like, I gotta say, that was actually part of what got me to MLG DC. It was the same weekend as a screenwriting competition that I was in, so I wasn't sure if I was going to have the time. And my husband was like, well, Day 9's going to be there. And I was like, oh, man, yeah, I think maybe, I don't know. And then he's like, Idra's going to be there. And I'm like, all right, you know what, where is it? Like, let me figure out what bus I have to take. So, but yeah, Day 9 definitely is, he's been who I've been referencing for most of my, anybody I've been pitching it to that doesn't know StarCraft,
Sure.
I've been sending them straight to Day 9.
Sure.
Which, at the moment, the crew is all made up of gamers, except for my editor, which is kind of on purpose. I wanted to have somebody that wasn't too inside, so that, you know, we're all sitting around talking about these things, and they could look at us and be like, you're not making any sense. But also the fact that the editor, she's phenomenal. I've worked with her on my last 2 films. Like, I absolutely love working with her, and she's amazing. So, but
yeah, no, that's interesting. I actually I hadn't even thought of that. Like, in terms of if you had, let's say, an editor who was a gamer, then you're gonna get a certain skewed point of view. And so that's interesting. I like that. Yeah, on the Day 9 follow up, my wife actually just mentioned to me the other day, because I was talking about his last Fun Day Monday and how hilarious it was, and she got to admit that. She's like, yeah, I don't really like watching the game, but I like Day 9. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's all right.
yeah, I have this habit of boring my friends who aren't into the game with, like, Day 9 references or, like, posting videos. Like, the whole number J thing, it still makes me laugh so hard every time I even think about it.
My friends, they get tired of, we're on the Facebook, and I post, like, the trumpet video quite often.
Right. Yeah, I had a friend come visit, and I was just like, oh, I've got to show you, you know, you're a musician, you'll love this trumpet video. And he was like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm like, shut up, it's amazing.
Yeah, I know, you just don't get it. That's all.
Yeah.
You don't get it. No. Okay, so I think that's about everything that I had for you for today. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or anything else you wanted to mention? Any other shout-outs?
Well, I mean, I've got to go ahead and say that, like, the community really has been amazing now that they're finding out a little bit more about us. I know at first everybody was like, another documentary, what is this about? But once they started really looking, they've been really fantastic, and that's been, the outpouring of support has been amazing. And, our Kickstarter was a big success so far. And that was great. So I have to say thank you to every single backer on Kickstarter. Huge thank you from, like, the $1 on up. You know, every bit helps. Obviously, that's still running. So if people think that the project sounds good, you can get to it from goodgamemovie.com. Right there on the front page, there's a couple links to it. So
and I'll link it below on the blog post when I post this
awesome.
video. So I will make sure to link the Kickstarter and the Good Game Movie site.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we've got some fantastic perks. So, like, signed stuff from EG members, posters, DVDs. Like, there's some really great stuff that you can get for donating. And, I was trying to explain it to people on Reddit in that, we're not just asking for a handout. We also want our audience to be excited about this. And they do seem to be getting excited about it. And that's perfect. Filmmakers don't make movies for themselves. They make them for an audience. So it's great to really see our audience coming together. That's been fantastic.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that comment because I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of. I know it's a little bit of a sidetrack, but I just kind of want to get your opinion on this. I'm a big fan of Kurt Vonnegut. I've read everything that Kurt Vonnegut has ever written that you can possibly find. And one thing that he has stated many times in some of his writing, and especially when he's talking about writing, is that you don't write for yourself and you don't write for an audience, you write for one particular person. And that's your audience. And how everything that you write, you may, whether it's conscious or not, there's one person that you're looking to read that, essentially. And I'm curious about your thoughts on that. Like, do you when you go into filmmaking, especially, is there one particular person, or are you looking to please like the community?
Well, I mean, I sort of end up falling back into some of the marketing speak that we're trained to do in our producing stuff.
Sure. The college teaching you.
Right, exactly. Like, I've got 2 film degrees now, so I got to use it for something. But they're definitely, like, I look towards certain people in that I think about, like, what would make them happy, what would make them interested. But I always want my movies to be something where, a 90-year-old grandmother might pick it up and still find it interesting. I don't want to do something that would alienate someone. Mm-hmm. With this film in particular, my goal is for a general audience to pick it up. And I've been looking at, sort of niche competition documentaries like Spellbound or Kings of Pastry.
Sure. Okay.
And stuff like that. I didn't even really compete in the spelling bee when I was a kid, but Spellbound is amazing. Mm-hmm. And so I've been looking at that. But at the same time, I'm a gamer.
And you don't want to, like, let's say, alienate the Team Liquid community by making it too dumb or whatever.
Right, exactly. Like, I want this to be something that celebrates what this community that is worth celebrating, because it is. And so I want them to be able to take this and, like, say, show it to a girl that they're dating and be like, isn't this awesome? Or show it to their mom and, be able to say, like, this is this thing that I'm into, isn't it great? And to enjoy it, I want them to enjoy watching it as much as I'm enjoying making it. And so that's definitely on my mind. So even though I'm thinking, like, general audiences, and there might be parts of it that are sort of, oh, yeah, we know what cheese is. Like, at the same time, like, I still want them to just, get a happy feeling out of it. So it's definitely on my mind the whole time. I don't know that I necessarily have, like, a single type of person. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, I completely agree that there's no point in making a movie just for yourself. If you want to do that, like, just picture it in your head and don't spend the money.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I'm making this movie to make a point, in a way. And like I said, to fight that stereotype, because I hate stereotypes. They annoy me. Like, as a girl gamer and a woman filmmaker, get stereotypes thrown in my face all the time.
Sure.
And so I like to be able to say, like, sit down, watch this. I'm going to show you why you're wrong. Like, I'm not just going to sit there and tell you you're wrong. I'm going to give you a concrete example of the opposite of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And so that is part of what I think about when I do this. So.
All right. Well, that's pretty great. And then when I cut in with that, it was in the process of any other shout-outs or any last final thoughts?
I could go on about all of this stuff for ages. I do have to say also just thank you to EG. Mm-hmm. Like, the team management, everybody on the behind the scenes, all of the players, they've all been fantastic. It's been great to talk with them in interviews, and for them to take the time to talk to us when they're in the middle of these tournaments has been fantastic. And there's absolutely no way that this project would work without their help. It just wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. And so that's been great. And it's, everybody's been saying sort of like, oh, EG's making this propaganda documentary, and it's not that at all. They actually, from the beginning, have said, like, we want you to be able to make this a great film and a great story, and we're happy to help you do that. So they're, I couldn't ask for better subjects, I guess is how I'll leave that off.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. Do you have another website or a Twitter or anything for people?
I do have my Twitter, which is at 9hourfilms, all spelled out. And I update there, and with stuff about filmmaking in general, but stuff about the movie. The movie, I try to always use the hashtag GGMovie. So people can just sort of search for that and follow it if they want. And if other people tweet with GGMovie, I'll see it. Like, I have the search thing set up, so if anybody has any questions about it or they want to talk about it, they can use that hashtag and it'll pop up on my feed. And of course, we've got the Facebook page for it, but that's linked off of the main page, and I think off of the Kickstarter as well. So
great. All right. Well, Mary, thank you a ton for joining us. I love having you. I'm a huge film fan, so having both you and Justin Agnew on has been a real pleasure. So thank you again for joining us, and if you got nothing else, then I'm just going to cut you off and continue on with my spiel for the rest of the day.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I always love talking about my projects, so a little too much sometimes.
And also, I hope that maybe when we get closer to a release date, maybe you can come back on and tell us how it's going. Give us an update.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, like I said, January we start post-production, so that'll be all that craziness right there.
All righty. Well, then you go have a good day and good luck on the film.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was Mary Ratliff from ggmovie.com. GoodGameMovie.com on her new project, Good Game Movie. The film is called Good Game. Basically, a year in the life with E.G., the players, the business, and just kind of how it actually functions in today's society, especially in North America right now, where it's quite a booming business. So, cool, great, thanks everyone. Please check her out. Check out the Kickstarter. Check out the Good Game. If you can, donate $1 or whatever to get more exposure to modern North American esports as a whole. It's really good to see these films and see the excitement and the support from the community about all of this. It's really, really fun. I really like it. So that's pretty much all I had today. There were a couple other things. One, I'm doing the GG button giveaway. Right? GG button. Now, I said I would announce it on the show. The problem is that I actually have the list thing on our Facebook, but for some reason Facebook is actually completely jacking up right now, and I can't seem to get it. So what I'm going to do is I will announce it on the Facebook after the show once I can get onto it correctly, and then I'll PM whoever actually won it. And, I mean, literally, we had, I think, 6 people enter, and that was it. So if you did, you got a 1 in 6 chance at the moment. So that's pretty good. I do have a second GG button that I'm going to be giving away soon, because I actually bought 2 extra, 2 to give away on the show here. And I'm trying to come up with a fun thing to give that away. Some fun little contest, and I have a couple ideas in mind, but I think I'll wait maybe like a month or so before we do that giveaway. So that's great. The other thing I just wanted to do a quick spiel about was, IPL 3, which is starting this weekend. I really, if I would have thought about it beforehand, I should have done basically a whole episode rundown of this, but I didn't. Honestly, and the real reason why is because I totally forgot that it was coming up this weekend. When I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh yeah, that's like October. That's like 2 months away for some reason. I was thinking that was like forever away, like not even close to where we are today. And then when last week I was setting up, and I was like, oh, IPL 3 is this weekend? Oh, shit. Fuck. Well, so I was just going to kind of give a little rundown of what I thought. Now, this is kind of interesting. This tournament setup's a little different. So it's kind of hard for me to think, because the group play is basically like seeding into the main bracket. And I think that as long as you're doing that, almost anybody has a chance still, no matter how they do in group play. Instead of like a situation where like top 2 advance and the other ones are gone, right? So seeing that, and the groups are basically, Group 1 is Stefano, Alive, Boxer, and Huck. Group 2 is Ryung, Straylock, Rhett, and MC. Group 3 is Hero, Sleep, Thorzane, and Select. In Group 4 is the STC, MMA, White Raw, and IDRA. And right now, IDRA is looking ridiculously strong. And in fact, I think he's stronger than White Raw. I think he's stronger than the STC. MMA, you never know. I think overall, IDRA's more consistent than MMA, but MMA can come out of nowhere and take him. In Group 3, where we went through Hero, Sleep, Thorazane, and Select, that is a pretty friggin' strong group, because Liquid Hero is he's super consistent, very powerful. Thorazane also. Select is a little hit and miss, but when Select is on, I think that he could beat almost any Korean. But when he's not on, he can't even beat, like, some of the, like, what we would basically classify as, like, B or C teamers here in North America. I don't know what goes on with him. In Group 2, we have Ryung, Strelok, Rhett, and MC. Rhett is just terribly good. MC's basically fallen off the map, and I don't know if he's going to make it back into the GSL. I've talked about this before. I don't know if MC really has it in him, honestly. Strelok is consistent, and Ryung is, again, kind of like MMA. It's where he's either absolutely brilliant or he just dies. Like, in Group 1, Stefano, Alive, Boxer, Huck. Huck is pretty consistent, but and he hasn't been doing much lately. He has been staying in Korea quite a bit. He did survive his Code S matches. He just didn't advance. So I'm sure he's been practicing quite a lot. Boxer, you never know. Excuse me. Alive, I'm not that big on Alive. I think he's kind of overrated. And Stefano, again, he can. Did you guys see that, like, ladder run of Stefano where he went like 50-2 or some crap? I forget what it was. But I don't know. I mean, I really just, this can go to anyone. It can go to, the open bracket is like completely stacked too. Let me see if I can find that list. Here we go. I mean, look at this. Lucky Fool, Cats, Avilo, Trimaster, Spades, Hash, Slush, Sake, DeMuslim, In Control, Puma, Machine, Minigun, Hey Pro, Sheth, Kiwikaki, Spanishiwa, TT1, I mean, Violet. These are all players that could make it into the higher end bracket stages. Out of that group, though, I think Sheth, DeMuslim, and Puma are probably the three highest level players in there. Trimaster, especially after that last MLG run, you can't count that guy out. I mean, he's really good. I mean, that kid's, he looks like he's for real, you know, not like one of these guys who got really lucky and got really high once and then disappeared. He looks for real. So, other news, it looks like Cruncher is going to take a break from SC2 to go back to school. Like in January, it looks like it says, according to this news post. That's interesting. I don't know. Whatever you guys think of Cruncher is one thing. He's been kind of, at least a while back, with a kind of a, the community was on a love-hate relationship with Cruncher, so I'm not totally sure how you feel about that, but either way. And other than that, I think that's about all we got for you. Yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So, I again want to thank Mary Ratliff of GoodGameMovie.com. Good Game, her documentary about EG and North American esports. Yep. Is that about it? That looks about it? Yeah? Sound good? Sound good? Cool. I never know how to end these things. So, alright guys, so go ahead and check us out. Go to sc2newscast.com. Like us on our Facebook. Follow us on our Twitter. Do all that liking and following garbage. Keep in mind, I will be doing another contest soon for the GG button, as I discussed. And tune into the podcast. In case you guys have only ever seen this, go to sc2newscast.com. What I actually started doing was how this all came together, and originally was a 2 to 5 minute podcast 5 days a week, just recapping the day in SC2 esports. Basically, think of it like a 5-minute top of the hour sportscast. Like if you ever listen to sports talk radio, just kind of gives the rundown of the events and the scores, and any other player or team news that was worth mentioning. So go ahead and follow us on there. We have a whole bunch of there's feeds and everything. All the normal junk. You can find us on iTunes. This video is going to be up on Blip TV, blip.tv/SC2Newscast. Other than that, I am the Amazombie, and I think we're going to get on out of here for today. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.